Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the best number 1E76-C181RP1626. That's a long part number to talk about a mortise cylinder. But, like all things best, you're able to drill down via the part number and get exactly what you're looking for, which is also a hallmark of its sister company, Dorma especially. There's no doubt. So this 1E76, etc., etc., all of that conspires to mean a tapered head cylinder. A cylinder like a tapered head cylinder is going to be very commonly seen on aluminum storefront. I very commonly also see it installed on automatic sliding doors as well. The feature of a tapered head is, the bottom line is that it is more difficult to get a wrench over the head of this and defeat the lock. That's the bottom line. Tapered head are nice because of that exact reason. A tapered head will also give you a good length of threaded portion of the mortise cylinder housing, so that you can get this turned into a lock like an aluminum storefront application. Tapered head conspiring with the C181, we'll go over that in a moment, to get you into your aluminum storefront or your automatic sliding door application. That's really where I see tapered head cylinders. Okay. Now, this will take a 6 or a 7 pin core. This is going to have the riveted on C181 Adams Right cam. Okay. This is also going to include couple of trim rings that you may or may not need. You're going to need one. You're probably going to need one for sure. I don't know if they'll stack. Oh, sure they will. Yeah, they'll certainly stack. Should you need to, you can stack those. Let's go over the thickness of the rings, and then we're going to dissect the part number. The thinner ring, I think it's 3/16. Let's take a look. Nope. 0.138. 0.138 thick. The thicker of the two rings, 0.231. 0.231 thick. This is also going to include the set screw, and we're going to talk about why that's necessary as well. You're also going to get a couple of bushings, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, there's a link below this video to not only the product catalog, but the installation instructions that will talk about where you're going to use that set screw, and we'll get into it right now. Okay, let's dissect the part number. So we're dealing with, and there is a link below this video to the product brochure. On page 2 is how you go about dissecting these cylinders, mortise and rim cylinders from Best. It is an indispensable document with putting part numbers together. You know, Best is really tremendous when it comes to, in my opinion, laying out the material, giving you the legend by which everything is to be ordered, and it's bulletproof and it works every time. So the bottom line is we're dealing with a 1E series cylinder. There you go. The 1E is a typical cylinder that is going to be used in, you know, mortise lock applications or other applications that require a mortise cylinder. Machined from solid brass or bronze bar stock. Additional security by a set screw that mounts diagonally in the cylinder wall when tightened. Let's just jump to that right now. That set screw I mentioned earlier, you'll notice, and Best isn't the only company that does it, but you're going to notice a great feature of this Best lock with that with this cylinder, this set screw. You're supposed to get it threaded inside of there. Now what I would end up doing is coming in from this side with a screwdriver to get that threaded inside of there. You need the fingers of a adolescent to get this in there. Let's take a closer look at that. Okay, so I wanted to demonstrate how to get that set screw in because it's not super easy. You can lay that set screw down so that it basically fits in the milling and then the tapping or the preparation that's been done. you basically rest it in there and you hold it with your finger. And then what I've done is I've taken my small slotted screwdriver and I've stuck it down in the hole to get to the head of that. And then you start to turn it counterclockwise. And as you do so, you're careful not to cross-thread it at all. But as you do so, you're going to be able to continue to turn that all the way in. And it does come in. Small amount of thread cutting is most certainly happening as you're doing that. So a little bit out like you're tapping a hole. A little bit out, come back in, continue the process, and you're as right as rain. So as you continue to do that, you're going to get it to a point where it clears the threads out and get it backed all the way in. And what they want you to do, and you can hear how that's making that that sound as if you are tapping a hole. Careful not to overdo it. I'm coming in. I'm going back out with the screw to remove the particulate that's in there. And you probably couldn't see it, but a piece just fell out. Take it out. Okay, so anyway, you get the point. You don't have to watch paint dry. You're going to draw that set screw all the way in to the point where that screw is basically flush. Okay, is what you're going to do. You're going to bring it all the way in before you insert that into the lock that you're dealing with. I did go ahead and complete the process of turning that screw all the way down. When I do it a second time, and I've not had one as rough as this one, I will absolutely get in there with a tap. And I don't know the thread size for that, but I will obtain it from the manufacturer and post it to this item so that you can go in and tap that hole, clean it out so that you can really run the screw in without having to work it back and forth like the screw itself was a tap. So I've got that drawn all the way down, or at least below the thread height. Now, the bottom line is, since we're talking about this screw, once you thread this in to your lock, you know that you're going to tighten the screw in the edge of your mortise lock, tighten that down, and it's going to nest into this column that's here. Or into this groove, forgive me, into this groove. Well, as an added measure of protection, you're then going to run your set screw down into the mortise body itself. That's going to really help prevent a rotation attack of someone trying to spin the cylinder off the door. Okay, and that's really the bulk of what the installation instructions say. Other lock manufacturers use these instructions to install this best 1E cylinder in either a best lock or in somebody else's lock. From the outside of the cylinder, thread the set screw. So from the outside, and that's what I had discovered. It's best to, from the outside of the cylinder, start to thread it in. Well, I found that you couldn't just thread it in because that angle's weird. Got it set there and then came in this way and started to counterclockwise rotate it. With a narrow screwdriver, insert the blade down through the figure 8 hole, back the set screw in until the tip of the screw is below the threads of the cylinder. That's what we've done. The only thing I would suggest is that you use a tap and clear it out. Install the cylinder. Now, install the cylinder into your lock, secure your cylinder. Then, your next step is to bring that screw out, draw the head inside so that you can clear where your cylinder has to enter. That's going to give you the best ability to deter that wrench attack. You're going to want to be sure that you've got the tailpiece positioned correctly. Now, what comes with this were 2 spacers. Okay, that spacer you're going to use, you're just going to drop it down over your tailpiece if you're using 6-pin cores. Now, there are 2 of them. If one will allow you to go from a 7 to a 6-pin, many people may not know this, but Best also does a 5-pin cylinder. I wonder if 2 of them will allow you to run a 5-pin cylinder into there. I've never seen a 5-pin cylinder. And their service manual, there's a link to it down below this video to the manufacturer's page, and look for service manual. You'll find the spacers mentioned 100 times, if not more. You'll use that spacer if you have a 6-pin cylinder. You're going to want to do that. I don't know why there are two that are there. I've never seen two of them in a package. Maybe I've not looked at enough packages. Maybe it is for 5-pin. Highly unlikely would be my opinion. So at that point now, let's get into dissecting the part number. You've got a 1E. So our part number is going to be 1E. Then you have to, and they don't even offer you a 5-pin version. Your core housing is either going to be 0, 6, or 7. We're doing a 7-pin on this. Function code length. The next value is a 6, and that is a tapered mortise. I'm looking at page 2 of the product catalog. Then after that, you've got blank, so it's a standard mortise cylinder. C181, which is that Adams Rite standard MS. MS is a Adams Rite trademark for maximum security. Marketing term. Then you've got RP1 at the end of there for a tapered cylinder, and then finally your finish. As you scroll through the document, you're going to see all of these areas where all of this different stuff is discussed, namely the tapered head cylinder. You're going to eventually get to the page where all the cams are at, and that's really great because this is a staked-on cam. You're not going to just swap that out. I mean, you can if you had the parts and the tools to stake it on again, but you're going to want to change the C181 to suit your conditions. You know, obviously, if you're dealing with something like Schley, you're going to deal with, maybe that C265. I would have called it a C255 because that's the Schley number. Other applications are their standard cams. Your fantail style cam is there, a variety of different cams. Then, of course, blocking rings. You're going to need to lay the math out of how much am I dealing with on this. And I don't think I gave you that. Overall length of this to the back of the cam, they're going to call it 1.5 inches. You've got to the underside of the tapered head to the back of the cam about 7/8. You can see that you've got about 11/16 worth of threaded distance that's there. So a couple of trim rings, a couple of spacers. I'm thinking you could only possibly need one. Your installation instructions. The product catalog is there so you can drill in and really figure out what in the hay you need beyond the standard packaging, namely spacer rings or different cams, and you can define your best cylinder part number there. Other specialty cylinders are there as well for your review. Finally, back to that manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the best products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog and several other encyclopedic documents, such as their best A2 and A4 keys system training. If you want to learn how to combine best cores, paperwork is there. Good for you. I encourage that sort of academic endeavor, even if you don't have a need to pin the material very often or at all. My name is Rich, Architectural Builders. Any questions on the best 1E76 C181RP1 and a 626 finish or any other best product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you very much.